Hey classes, good to be with you today. Doing my best to use this technology to talk to you a little bit, and I'm really like to be in the classroom. So this isn't my favorite format to deliver kind of this presentation to you, but I do love coming in the classroom, meeting with you. 3600 was my favorite class to teach at UVU. My name is David Prisbila. I'm a professional in residence professor at marketing here at the university. Those of you that are in marketing or digital marketing, you'll get to take some of my classes. I teach the upper division marketing classes here at the university, and it's a lot of fun. But I do miss 3600. I think I call 3600 kind of the ESPN top 10 of marketing. You just get to hit the fun top elements and exciting pieces of marketing. Such a neat field. I've had a lot of fun with it in my career, and excited to create this video for you best that I can. Hope you enjoy it, and hope you enjoy a little bit about my experience in product management and product marketing management. I put my smug shot up here in my office. If you have any questions, want to talk to me, thinking about a career in marketing, thinking about your interest in marketing or digital marketing, please come talk to me. Or, well, for now we can do it virtually, but you can send a message, find me on any sort of social media channel, email, whatever works. Come talk to me. What I want to do today is just kind of three quick things. I want to kind of introduce a little bit about a site. First, a website called marketingschools.org. If you have any interest in a career in marketing, this site is a fantastic resource that really outlines the many fields of marketing. I think marketing's a lot like engineering in that you have to specialize. Just as an engineer has to specialize in computer engineering or chemical engineering or civil engineering, marketers oftentimes have to specialize in their fields. And there's a lot of different marketing fields inside of the marketing position. I'm biased, but it is definitely the best position in a company because we get to have all the fun, and that's very true. But this product marketing manager or product manager, that's what I want to talk a little bit about today, this role. It was not a role that I had all even known about or considered when I was going through college. Actually, my background, my undergraduate's a technology degree, an engineering degree, and I really kind of got into marketing in the back door or in a very kind of more technology related way. I've specialized in human computer interfacing, which is an old term for something I want to show you today. And that is kind of about how our experience with technologies and with products goes, and can we better that experience. So today, the product marketing manager, product manager role is something that I want to kind of tell you a little story about and how I got into that, and kind of why it's a very interesting position within companies. But more important than interesting, there are some very beneficial pieces to considering a career in this. When I got into product marketing management roles, I was recruited almost weekly on LinkedIn. For example, my second job that I got, I was there less than a week, and a recruiter reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, we've got a job for you." And I said, "Well, I just got my job." She's like, "I don't care. We can do better." I got my highest pay increases by going into that role, but I will tell you the downside, it was some of the most stressful role I ever had. And I'll explain more about why that is in organizations and why it's such a critical and accountable role inside of the organization. So if you want to, let's link up here, marketing-schools.org. If you have any interest in different careers and want to learn more about the different pieces of marketing, this is definitely one of them. I'm bringing this up, and I'll say this at the end of the presentation too. We, as a marketing team, feel very strongly about this role and its position in the marketplace. As tech companies continue to find Utah as a fantastic home for their business, our affordable labor, our great educational system here locally, the demand for product marketers, product marketing managers, customer experience managers is skyrocketing. They can't fill it. They're bringing people from out of the state to fill these roles, and they're paying them out-of-state wages because a lot of these companies come from outside of Utah. And so we are finding a significant demand for this role in the industry, and it's being paid significantly more than our average graduates are making just as marketing management majors and as digital majors. So as a team, we want to go down the path of preparing our students better for customer experience and product management roles. And so just this semester, I was tasked to develop a course in product management. And I felt the best way to do that was to go find industry experts locally and have them help develop the curriculum and teach the class. So right now is our first class of product management being taught by a past Chief Product Officer at Pluralsight, also being taught by a Chief Product Officer at Blackboard, which is a $1 billion company, and another Chief Product Officer who's currently working for an Israeli company here locally. So these three experts in the industry came in together and said, we'd love to teach this. We believe there's tons of demand. And it has been an amazing success. We only had 10 students in the class, so it was a very good opportunity for these 10 students to interact with these three professionals. And 3 of the students have already had job offers just by being in the class and knowing these people in industry. So we're very excited by the potential and the opportunity. And this could be something that you consider in your career. And even if you're not, I know that there's a lot of different majors or considering majors in this class. I want to show you something right now that all of you will be impacted by your career and need to be thinking about no matter what field of business you go into. And that's what I want to kind of show you right now. But before I do, I want you to know that this class is being taught again in the fall. I've got it right here. Marketing 359R 601. It's Tuesdays from 5:30 to 8. It will be taught again by at least 1 or 2 of these industry professionals. We really like having them come in and being current in the industry and obviously being able to place our students. So if you had an interest, as this is an elective to take, please consider signing up for it. If you have more questions, go ahead and come talk to me about it, and I'll tell you more about the course. Happy to introduce you to some of them. And they're really, really, really fun class, and really neat to see this being developed and being an opportunity for our students as this field is growing significantly fast. The stats that we have on it is that product marketing management is the second fastest growing career in marketing, but it is the highest paid out of college and one of the highest paid careers inside of marketing. So we feel like if we can position ourselves at a university, this would do a great service to our students and opportunity going forward. So jumping in real quick, if you are not interested in a career in marketing, let me just tell you, everybody in a company is a marketer. That's what I always say is, if I can get the entire company on my team becoming ambassadors for our product or service or culture, then I've somehow successfully recruited you into the organization. But every one of us, a huge buzzword and career and thing we're talking about today in all business is customer experience. I mean, you look at Qualtrics, who recently sold for $8 billion. They rebranded themselves as Qualtrics CX. CX standing for customer experience. Customer experience is a massive shift. It's a mind shift for entire organizations. It's a focus that organizations are taking to better create basically an experience, an opportunity for their customers to have multiple positive touch points within their organization. Now let me just give you a quick example up front, because I know some of you accounting majors might be doubting me, but let me give you an example of the last company I worked for. I worked for the Clyde Companies, which is a local company that's $1 billion construction company. They own Geneva Rock, Sunrock, and about 10 other companies. And we were having management meetings discussing things that we were going to do for our customers. Well, one example of this customer experience that got brought up that was very much financially driven was the concept of credit card fees. If you've ever been in a small business or you were part of a small business, you would understand that the credit card fees that small businesses incur by taking credit cards is a significant cut into their margins, into their profits, and can be very, very difficult for small businesses to swallow. So I have, and maybe you have experience, that if you use a credit card with some small businesses today, you'll find the small business now tax on that fee for you using your credit card. So it's 2.5%, 3% fee if you choose to use a credit card. Well, this got brought up at the Clyde companies, and while small businesses, it's a significant cut into their margins, maybe not a significant dollar amount. Just for an example, we had customers using credit cards to the tune of $6 million in credit card fees a year to our business. So that all of a sudden, $6 million that's being taken basically straight from our bottom line became a topic of a discussion. That do we choose to go ahead and charge those fees to our customers, or do we go ahead and continue to eat that cost? And that conversation, while sounding financial, is really a conversation about customer experience. How does that change and impact our customer if we add those fees or tack them on? And so we went through discussions on that back and forth, because this is a significant amount of money. And in the end, our organization being more customer-centric, focused, then we decided to go ahead and continue to eat those fees and not impact our customer with them. So there's a very good financial accounting scenario where the customer experience came into play. And I want to show you another quick example. I don't want to go into this in too detail, but why customer experience is a big part of product marketing. I'll get into that. But the idea is that as companies look at their strategic business objectives, right? This is, we have to make money, but then we also go look at the customer needs, the customer journey. Maybe you've heard that term, their emotional, kind of their support needs. We're trying to fuse the balance of these two things to make money. Is that if we can successfully manage a customer need and make money at it, then that's what we're trying to do. And the idea is that we want to fuse the balance of these two things. So let me just give you a cool example here. An engineer, right? So came together and built a new MRI machine, right? Very, very powerful, very beneficial for our medical needs, okay? So he builds a very, very powerful, engineers a great product, but let's talk about the experience of this product, because here's a really good example. So we're going to talk about Sophia. She's 6.5 years old. Now, Sophia needs an MRI. Now, she's not going to pay for it, right? That's mom or dad's insurance, but she's the one that's actually going to use the machine. So when we look at the experience, right, this is now the journey mapping of her experience. We come in and we look at, what's going to happen, who's going to be involved, what's she feeling, how things are going, and how this interaction with this product is going to go. And here we have Sophia, right? So we check in. She's really nervous. She walks in. She sees the machine. Oh my goodness, that's scary. She cries. Will it hurt me? Anybody who has kids is probably laughing a little bit because you've been through this. Mom can't help because she has to be there alone. Mom can't hold her down. Doctor comes in. Now she's really scared. So they have to get out some drugs. She's screaming. And hopefully we get her sedated enough to not move and go through the machine. Okay. So that's kind of a typical child behavior of an experience like this, right? So we've got the doctor who gets involved, the people, what's happening, right? That's kind of all part of this experience that Sophia's going through. Well, what happens here, what's the impact of how Sophia's feeling? Because that's really what we're getting into with marketing. We really want to understand their feeling and their actions. Well, this kind of, I'm scared, I'm nervous, it's going to hurt me. Well, this all feeling actually impacts our profitability, because now all of a sudden, right, we're losing time because she's screaming and crying. More staff has to come in. We have to drug her. We've got side effects of all of that to get her through this machine. So we've actually got a financial impact of time and money and resources because of how she's worried about this machine, right? This is kind of how she's feeling. So the question now is what are her needs, right? What are her needs right here? Well, her needs is that she has to get a scan, right? We have to see how she's doing, but her also emotional needs is she wants to feel safe. She needs to feel that this is okay, that this isn't too bad, even though it's not, mom's not there, that she feels safe. So let's look at a 6.5-year-old. Well, what do 6.5-year-olds like? Well, they love coloring, they love drawing, they love camping. She loves camping with her dad, things like that. So the question is can we change the experience? Having the same product, but create a better experience for Sophia? Sure, a lot of fun here. Let's go ahead and turn it into a fun place where they can go camping, and it's like going to bed while camping. Same machine, same technology, but now she's going to feel safe. She feels happy, right? Oh, we get to go camping. Oh, how much fun is that going to be? I love camping. And this is a friendly camping counselor. And hey, a campfire, and it feels like camping. And now she feels it wasn't so bad. We can eliminate some of these side effects and costs of the emotional response and attitudes of Sophia. And this is just, another example of kind of customer experience, which is where a lot of companies are going and where this role of product management, I think, is trending towards. But I want to tell you a little bit about my first experience in product management and kind of just tell you about how that worked for me and kind of give you an introduction to the field. I was working, so my first experience, I was about, 28, so kind of early on in my career. And let me see if it was purchased. The company was purchased. But I was working for a company called ParentLink, and ParentLink got purchased by Blackboard. And what we had built at ParentLink was a communication tool for school districts. So those of you going to school, if you remember, if you were absent or tardy or missed an assignment and your parents got notified by phone, web, email, app, text message, that was us. So students hate us, parents loved us, but we were in charge of communicating from school districts to home regarding attendance and crisis communications. That was actually how we got into the industry, is say that there was a school lockdown, a fire, a suspicious person, weather-related issues. When you got communications coming home, we were the software tool that drove those communications. And we specifically worked with school districts across the United States. So I was working as the marketing director for the company, and we let go. I'd only been there at the company for about 2 years, and we let our product marketer go, our product manager go. And the CEO came to me and said, "Hey, I need you to fill this role." And I said, "Okay, I kind of really like what I'm doing, but if you need me, I'll do what you need me to do," right? As the CEO. What I didn't realize is what I was getting myself into, and how critical this role is to the company. The role of product manager or product marketing manager, and the reason that I say both is it depends in what organization you go into. Smaller organizations, those two roles seem to be the same. As organizations grow, those two roles will differentiate a little bit. So let me just tell you a little about the difference of the two of them, and that I was doing kind of both roles. But the product manager typically is going to be the person who's going to be responsible for the overall development feature set, benefit statements, and kind of just the overall scope of the product. So if we go into product lifecycle, they're going to own that product all the way from introduction all the way through maturity and decline. That's what a product manager will do, and they'll continue to manage the features, the bugs, the benefits, and it doesn't always have to be technology, right? A product manager can manage an entire building being built, but I'm going to just focus on technology, as that seems to be the roles that we seem to be able to place for. The role of a product marketing manager then is that individual is more geared towards the customer. So how do we take these products, these features, and how do we develop collateral and support the sales team? And how do we, sales engineering, and how do we communicate the benefits of what we're providing to the customer through one sheets, PowerPoints, presentations, video, content, marketing, and kind of more of that customer focused as opposed to more of the product interior inside focused. And in larger companies, those two roles seem to kind of branch out and be individual, whereas in smaller companies, they seem to kind of be one and the same. So that's why I'm going to talk about both, because in this company, I had both responsibilities. Now, the interesting piece, I want to show you this chart right here. The product manager is a very interesting role because in the hierarchy of an organization, right, who you report to, bosses and subordinates, most often the product manager is kind of off to the side. It's not something that is falls under marketing. It's not something that falls under sales because it's somebody who has to interact with almost every business segment inside the organization. So as my experience has been in 3 organizations as a product manager, I have oftentimes reported directly to or very closely directly to the CEO. And it's a very high visibility position, a very high trust position within organizations because of the critical nature that the CEO and the chief product officer, if you have one, in terms of this product is going to drive the success of our business. Now, that's great and all because you get immediate trust and exposure to a CEO and it can be very rewarding. On the flip side, you are also responsible to all of the other business segments and answering to the needs of the entire business. So like this chart is showing, while the executive team is kind of who's managing you, you're responsible for making sure that the legal team gets what they need in the product, the sales team gets what they need, the marketing team gets what they need, the finance, operations, support, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you're meeting internally with all of these stakeholders that have influence and interest in how the product functions. For example, the support team, if they continue to be overwhelmed with bugs and fixes and supporting customers because the usability is poor or it's not working, they're going to be very frustrated and unhappy with the product and with you. On the flip side, the sales team is going to want new features, new capabilities because their customers out there are demanding this. And so their demands on you is more. If you have an account executive team or account management team, those individuals are talking high-level stakeholders in terms of your accounts are saying, hey, bug fixes, we've got to have bug fixes because we're going to lose this customer if we don't have bug fixes. Then the legal comes down onto you and says, well, look, we have to be legally compliant. The laws have changed. Say we're going international, then the privacy laws are changing. And finance comes in and says, well, look, we only have so much budget. You only have so much money to spend and so much resources. So you have to pick what you're going to go forward with. And then the executive team's coming on to you and saying, well, hey, we've got to move forward. We got to do more. We got to make more money. How do we make more money? And how do we grow our company? And on and on and on it goes. Okay. So the stress can be significant, and the challenge is how do you build relationships with many of these departments while oftentimes telling them no. And that's one of the hardest responsibilities that a product manager has, is to build relationships internally and externally while oftentimes having to tell people no. And that is a very difficult role, and why it's highly paid, why it's highly sought after, is because somebody who can do this role effectively is usually somebody is hard to find. Somebody who is technically capable, but also can communicate effectively with internal and external stakeholders. So I jumped into this role, not knowing exactly what it was and learning just trial by fire in this communications company. And the CEO, after a little bit into the role, just kind of getting my feet wet, working with the development team, working with the sales team, the CEO came to me and said, so at the time, we were a $6 million a year company. So good, medium, small size business. And he came to me and he said, David, I really like our product, but I really love education. And at the time, this was about 2008, I think, 2009, he said, in all of our school districts that use our product, the majority, 80+% of them, they do not allow teachers to use our product. Only the administrators at the school district do they use it. And I think the greatest impact in education would be if we could let teachers use our product. I want you to go and discover why teachers are not allowed to use our product, and I want you to go make a product that teachers will be allowed to use and that teachers will want to use. And you've got a year, you've got $800,000 of development and other resources. Go, be successful. Good luck. And that's how he said it. So that was the challenge. He didn't have the answer. Well, I didn't have the answer. I didn't even know really where to start. But that was the challenge that I was given, is to create a product within our company that could solve that problem, that could get teachers more engaged and using it and allowing people to use it. So I went back, obviously, and thinking and brainstorming and collaborating. I realized the first thing I had to do was learn things that I didn't know. So I typically would ask you right now, if you think about this, what would you do? That's what you've been tasked with, is you got a budget, you got a year, and you got to go solve some problems. Well, what makes most sense to me would be to look at who to talk to. So the three people I looked at talking to were obviously school district administrators, and asking administrators, good questions as to why teachers couldn't use our product. Then I thought, well, I ought to talk to teachers and see if they were going to have a product to communicate more effectively to parents. What would they want? What wouldn't they want? How would that look? And then finally, I also said, you know what? I'm not an expert in education pedagogy or education communications. I should probably talk to people who are and understand more about how communication should look going home in order to be most effective. So those were the three areas that I said, I better go learn. So I first, actually working through all these channels, I actually don't remember exactly what order, but one of the first things I did is I went and found the experts in education communications. Turns out that Joyce Epstein, and there's actually an entire center dedicated for her at Harvard, that she is one of the foremost experts on, I'm trying to do two things at once, foremost experts on education. And I called up Harvard and I said, Harvard, we are trying to develop a product that teachers will use to improve education, improve the educational experience by communicating more with parents. And so Epstein, the department of Harvard, again, I'm summarizing, but came together after multiple times and said, okay, for a little bit of money, you're welcome to come over for a week and immerse yourself with all that we have. And we'll give you everything we have on this topic. And I said, great. So we paid for me to go out to Harvard, and I spent a week with the experts on communication, working with these teams on how to, what's the most important thing in education in terms of communication home to parents. And a lot of interesting things, but one of the most interesting research information that came out from that, from Epstein's team. I was trying to see if I can find my folder of, it might have been there. That was some research of all of her stuff that she gave me. I know this is one of them specifically, but one of the things that came out of that conversation that was extremely unique and extremely important was that Harvard has found through research that most of the communications coming from school districts to home were generally in a negative way. Attendance issues, truancy issues, sloughing, or crisis communications. And that very little communication coming from the school district was positive, a positive, grades, or a positive experience with the student in the classroom. And their research had shown that parents were more engaged in their students' education if they were receiving more positive than negative communications. So I'm going to come back to that, but that was one of the most profound things that we learned, is the importance of positive communications. So next, went ahead and talked to teachers. And teachers were very much against it, oddly enough. Like, here we are trying to say, hey, let's get parents more involved. Let's get you to communicate more to parents. And teachers said, I don't have time, right? We're already overwhelmed, overburdened. I don't want any more tools. I don't want any more work. I just don't have time to do it. Yes, I'd love to do it, but I just don't have time. So that's, it was almost a dead end, but that gave me the idea that, okay, I have to find a way to make this part of their everyday work and not really make it look like more work. That if I can make it easy for them, they might use it. But obviously time was the biggest issue. Then administrators' biggest issue was very interesting. As I talked to school district administrators, communications managers, and there was two main concerns that came from school districts. The first one, oddly enough, was trust. They didn't trust teachers to send communications home to parents in any sort of large amount other than the single phone calls that they might make. They just didn't trust them to do that. And I said, well, that's weird because you trust teachers with these parents' kids for 8 hours a day. How can you not trust them to communicate? I mean, talk about trust, but that was one of the biggest issues. The second issue that came from administrators was that they didn't want to overwhelm parents with too much communication, right? Could you imagine 6 or 7, say you have 3 kids and one's in junior high and that kid has 7 teachers and all of those 7 teachers are sending communications home every day to you about your kid, you could get, pretty overwhelmed and insensitized by important communications. Say the district has an emergency, you would start to ignore it. So I could see that as a very big issue, is that too many communications would make parents just not interested at all. Okay, so summarizing all of that, right? That was kind of just a quick overview, but that's the highlights. That through some research, that working on with customers and potential customers and people who knew the experts, we went back and built a product. And I'm going to fast forward quite a bit through that process, and tell you kind of some of the things we developed. But over the course of the year, we would develop this product that teachers could use, and working with, so that's kind of the research. Then I go work with the development team, and we hash out what things are going to look like. I iterate with our best customers in alpha testing and experience. And one of the first things that I started and decided to do is we decided to see if there was a common set of question or a common set of communications that teachers will most frequently send home. And this was another big research project. We did focus groups. We brought teachers in and we asked them and just said, hey, if you could have a set of messages already ready to go, what would that set be? What would you like to communicate most frequently? What are your most typical communications that you have? And put all those together. See, I think this is that document. And here they are. So these turned out to be, and the color coding is positive to negative, because remember, I want to have positive messages. Yellow was just kind of informational, but these turned out to be the set of questions or set of communications that were most interested to teachers. You'd be very surprised what the number one was, but the number one was that teachers wanted was, please remember your PE clothes. Oddly enough, PE clothes or PE shoes was really, really a big one. But what we did is we took these as the set, after talking to a lot of teachers, as these set of messages. We pre-recorded them in human voice and translated them into 12 languages so that it could go home in the language preference of the home. And that was a big, big benefit to teachers, being able to now not have to create and re-record these messages over and over, but now they had a library of messages that now, instead of creating their communication, they could drag and drop. And let me see if I can pull up a training manual. I'll show you some screenshots from it here. I think this is my best place. Okay, part of my role was obviously, as I was doing everything, was to also prepare the sales team. So what I did is also, sorry, this is going to look different because I'm on a Mac. But what I also had to do was write this entire manual. I wrote the entire thing from scratch to walk through, product features, purchasing power, how we get it into teachers, what's our unique selling position, how do salespeople qualify people, Hispanic was a really interesting. We've got a lot of Hispanic families. This was a big learning thing that I gained. We feel that Hispanic families may not be as interested in their child's education. Absolutely false. This came from Harvard. The idea is that the Hispanic families are taught not to question authority, and so they're just a little bit more hesitant to get involved, but not that they don't care about it. Absolute fallacy. Lots of interesting things there. So all of that comes through in the sales training document, walks them through our library, right? So here's our message library. This is our drag and drop feature. So this is where teachers could come in here, select what students they wanted to, drag the message over, and that student would get that message. Really neat, great tool. We also created for the administrators an approval process, because remember they didn't trust their teachers. So we actually had an approval process that as teachers would create messages, they would get sent to the district administrator who could then look them over. So like this one, your kid is a jerk, probably wouldn't get approved. But then they could come in here and approve and reject. If they rejected it, the teacher would get a message back saying that message did not get sent. So really cool system for that. We then had a great reporting tool, which talked about, well, how many are positive and neutral? Because again, we wanted to educate that positive messages, the more that we could send home positively, the more engaged our parents would be. All the research shows that, right? So we're building all of this into the tool, the Q&As, how to sell it, specifications for RFPs, documentation, where's our sources, where's our justification, all built into this sales manual for the sales team. Sorry, I super summarized a lot of what took over a year to develop, but extremely rewarding in that in the end, me and two of the developers, we actually are patent holders on 2 patents. One of the new things we also built, first in the industry ever, was the first ever way that when teachers sent out these automated communications, in that actual communication, a parent could hit a number, say the number 0 on the phone, in that same message, and record back a recording to the teacher that the teacher would then receive. So for example, say the teacher says, hey, I need some volunteers for our bake sale on Wednesday. If you can volunteer, go ahead and just send me a message back. Parent would get that auto-recorded message from the teacher, set 0, say, yeah, I'm available that day. Here's my name and number, and it would automatically go back to the teacher's recording. So it was first ever 2-way communication as well. And in the end, the question obviously is, what's the impact of all of these work? So main functions, right? Positioning, sales enablement, product launch, market intelligence, demand generation. This is all the requirement of that role. And right, so market potential, here's how we did. In the first 3 years, we had 22% of our current customer base adopt this product and 1% new customers come from it. That turned out to be a $2.2 million of annual revenue. It was awarded the #1 tech educational product of the year in 2011 and became our #1 selling product for 3 years. Really neat, really exciting. I'm actually going to show you a quick video that I had to create as part of the launch. Again, as you have all of the roles, you kind of run all of the different responsibilities. I think it's this one here. I'll go ahead and run it real quick for you. Okay. So, just a really neat experience for me in this company. Really advanced my my career. Sorry, and a lot of fun in this role. I went from this role to another company where I got my largest pay increase I've ever gotten, and continued on in this role for quite a bit longer until I got my director of marketing position at the Clyde companies. Very, again, a lot of responsibility, a lot of trust, a lot of accountability involved in this type of role. And why it's highly sought after is because of how much stress and responsibility is placed on this role. It's a very rewarding field. It is like, I mean, I talk about this exact experience because I just love the impact that I've been able to have, not only in developing a new product, being a patent holder, but also just knowing that I am improving the world by creating better communications, getting parents more engaged in the education of their children, and it was just a very rewarding, very opportunistic role, and one that I really loved. And if any of you, again, if any of you have interest in this kind of field of marketing, I strongly recommend that you jump into this class in the fall. If you're not sure if you should take it, come talk to me or anybody else in the marketing department. We can tell you a little bit more about it, and hopefully get you on a track of interest in this field. So that's what I've got for you today, and hope you enjoyed it. Again, sorry I couldn't be with you in the classroom. That's my favorite thing to do. We could have got into a lot more whiteboard and things that I like to do and shown you a lot more, but is what it is. And I hope everyone is healthy and safe, and can finish the semester strong. And we'll talk to you and hopefully meet you. Come talk to me. Love to chat with you. Thanks. Bye.